All right, welcome to this week's episode of Women Unheard. Today I have with me the very high energy, fun, and gorgeous Amber Valentine.
Thank you.
You are welcome. She is CEO of Hotmess to Hotness, if you don't already know, creator of the Worth It Nutrition Program, speaker, if you haven't heard her, she's pretty funny, and a certified personal trainer. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too, finally that it's happened.
I know. This is how you know that you're in the right company, is when someone's life is as busy and beautiful and chaotic as yours. So
I'm glad you think it's beautiful.
It is. It is. Outside looking in.
Exactly. Inside looking out, you're like, oh, I'm drowning. Ah.
But can you imagine not having all of the wonderful things that you have in your life and being bored? Like, if you had time on your hands, what would you do? You would create more things to be chaotic anyways, because that's just what we do.
No, I always sat in my office and was depressed. Like, we moved down here Statesville, in the beginning of COVID, and like things were so calm at work. It was just me and Tom and our big house and our big new property. I literally would sit in my office like in tears, like, I'm so bored. What do I do now? I'm married now, and I had just got married. I was like, I'm married. I'm an old married lady. I'm bored. That's probably how we ended up being like, oh yeah, maybe we should have a baby.
There you go.
Exactly.
That's great.
But anyway, after how many reschedules, we have finally made it.
We did it.
So happy to have you.
Here we go.
Yeah, girl. I feel like we have so much to talk about, but I don't want to talk about all the things that you typically talk about. I want to talk about like the beginning story.
I talk a lot, so it's going to be hard to find things I don't typically talk about, but we're going to work on it. Talking's my favorite.
Oh, okay. Well, fun. Hopefully I'll be the first. We'll see.
Yeah.
But so fun. I always talk about how I've met every one of our guests. And so most of my guests come through, and I think this is so truly a testament to the Greater Statesville Chamber of Commerce and like the amazing programs that they have, because every woman that has like been such a powerhouse that I've talked to, that I felt super connected to, I've met through the leading ladies, either the conference or sitting on that committee, or like some of their like really, really good events. And you were one of them. You were the guest, one of the main speakers at the Actualize conference the year before the last.
Yes.
So yes. And annoyingly, I missed half of your talk because I just had a baby and was like, trying to get there. Everybody's like, where's Katrina? I'm like, I'm coming.
I probably have spit up on me, and I had to change a diaper 2 times before I left the house, but I'm on my way.
My childcare was late. I've had 2 minutes of sleep. I didn't eat. I don't have any coffee.
I think anyone who's ever been a mom completely understands. If you say to me, I have a baby, I'm like, oh, you're going to be late. I'm okay with it. Like, you should be, please. Yeah. Like, take your time. Like, I get it.
But I think only moms can say that, because before I had a baby, I was like, this is bitch late all the time.
All the time. Never get herself together. Yeah.
I used to say that about my brother when he and his family were going to go, and you're like, oh God, it'll be at least an hour past what they said it's going to be. And now I'm like,
like a million things that you can't control are happening here. Got it. Yeah. So, and then I had the privilege this year of being in the audience for the Statesville Chamber event.
Yes.
And you were the speaker.
Yes, which you totally bugged me out, which I said to you.
Yes.
Because I really, truly thought you were mean mugging me, sitting in the front row, mean mugging me. Also, still tired mom trying to present 1 cup of coffee.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, Amber's mean mugging me. Oh my God, that's Amber.
I was literally in the front row, like, just taking notes and like staring straight at her. Now that I think back, here's the problem. I love being in the front. And then when I have to sit in the audience, it's the only time in my life that I have to sit still and shut up. And it is so hard for my ADHD brain for 5 hours of conference to sit still in like one spot. And so like 20 minutes in, my legs bouncing, and I'm like, I really need to get out of this chair. So here's what's going through my head as you're speaking. God, this woman is so great. I can't wait to talk to her. Like, I need to get out of this room so I can send her a text message. Like, I can't sit still. Like, I need to get out of this room so I can send her a text message. And I really have to pee, but I do not want to get up, because if I get up, then she's going to think I'm not interested in her thing. So I'm just going to sit here like trying so hard to like pay attention. That's where the concentration's coming from. And you're like, this woman is mean mugging me. No, I'm mean mugging having to sit in my seat. Like,
and it's so funny, like that's your perspective, because my perspective was the complete opposite. I'm like sweating on the inside. I'm like, does anything I'm saying right now make any sense? Does that make sense? I'm so tired. I have coffee. Why is she mean mugging me? I know what I'm talking about. I swear, even if I sound stupid because I'm so tired, I promise I'm not.
That's so great. And I'm just thinking, we are going to be best friends.
That is really so funny.
I love it. Well, okay, so when we talk about hot mess to hotness, that's kind of what it is. It's the fact that like, so all of us have a hot mess side, right? Like, we know where we're messy, which is what's running through your head all the time. I'm tired, I sound stupid, this is ridiculous, I know what I'm talking about, but no one gets it. Is she mean mugging me? Like, all of those things. Like, we know what our mess is, we know what that is all the time. But then we also have this side that is like on it. Like, the second I sit down and talk to you about anything marketing wise, any business stuff, you are so on top of it. Like, you're right on it. That's your hotness, right? Like, you're in the zone. But we forget, like, when we focus on our hot mess, we forget about that hotness piece, right?
Oh yeah.
And that everyone has it. I have never met a bad bee that didn't have a lot of mess that she just chooses to ignore and be great anyways. So that's what hot mess to hotness is really about. It's like embracing some of your mess and going, part of this makes me great. And there are pieces I can work on. So pull them out. Like, pull those pieces out. Do you need to work on them? Let's work on them. But do you also not need to, because they don't really matter? Most of them.
Yeah.
And then look at your hotness. Like, girl, what are the things about you that are just like so amazing? You know that you nail every time. Can't nobody tell you nothing when you're in that zone. And that's like, embrace them and focus on them and try to be in that space more. So
what I want to know is how you got there.
How'd I get there? Okay, so this is interesting. This may be, I talk about it, but I don't talk about it a lot. I used to be a pink Cadillac driver with Mary Kay. And prior to that, I grew up really, I wouldn't say poor. I mean, I had an interesting household. My father went to jail when I was in high school. Like, I ended up, I ended up homeless for a little bit. I dropped out of high school, like, got pregnant at a very early age, and like had to figure life out, right? And I always had this like feeling inside of me that like I was meant for more, but that there was something wrong with me. Like, just from my background, like that other people had all the answers and I didn't know what they were, but I was gonna fake it, right? Like, I'm gonna fake it and get where I'm going. That whole imposter syndrome thing, right? Well, then when I like fast forward, I'm in my early 20s. I've got a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, 3 and 4-year-old. I'm at my like first apartment. I'm finally on my feet. I'm selling furniture, like, you know, making it work. I'm working morning to night. I've kind of at that point not talking to a lot of people in my family anymore, trying to find like my own voice. And I remember waking up one morning and being like, oh my God, you know what? Just because I come from a mess doesn't mean I have to be one. Like, that was probably the first time that I was like, hold on, I'm in control. Like, I can figure this out. Like, I do have some answers. Let's see what they are. And like shifting my focus from what I don't know to what I do know. And then I was like, okay, I'm really good at sales. Like, let's go out and do this thing. Fast forward, I meet my husband, we get together, move in together, get married, and I wanted to stay home because I had 2 babies that I never could stay home with before. Now I'm married, I want to have another baby, but I want to be home this time. I want to experience like life. I want to be a mom. Yeah. So I start looking at stay-at-home companies and interviewing a lot of them. I didn't know anything about multi-level marketing, direct sales, anything like that. But I knew that you could make money at home. So I interviewed a bunch of these companies. The only one that made sense was Mary Kay. I knew nothing about makeup. I knew nothing about skincare. I knew nothing. But the marketing plan made sense. So signed up. Fast forward a year later, 300 people underneath of me. I'm full-time in the company. I'm making 6 figures. I'm staying home. I've got a pink Cadillac. I've broken some kind of weird record in our national area. I'm like 28 years old driving a pink Cadillac, and first year and a half in the company. And so my national director came to me and she was like, oh, I'm gonna need you to speak about this at seminar. And I was like, I'm sorry? I don't do that. It's not something I do. And she's like, no, you have to. Like, you're 28 years old driving a pink Cadillac. You joined the company a year and a half ago. Like, this is not normal. And I was like, no, but you just told me what to do and I did it. So is that just what you want me to get up there and say? And she's like, sure, say whatever you want to. You got 15 minutes.
You were like, 15 minutes?
At seminar? But I'm an imposter, all right? Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I just did what you told me to do. I'm a copycat. Like, I immediately went to like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. This is a crazy story. I'm so glad I'm getting to tell it because I never tell this story ever. I never get to tell this.
I told you.
You did it. You did it. High five. You did it. So I didn't go to college. I didn't finish high school. I had a 10th grade education. I'm about to get into a room and give a speech in front of hundreds. I've never done it before. In front of hundreds of women who have 30 years of experience in this company and tell them how to do something? It's like, oh no. So I wrote speech after speech after speech after speech, threw it up, threw it away. I didn't know what I was doing. And I was like, okay, I've crafted the perfect speech. I've lost 3 days of sleep over this. It's gonna be great. And then I go to speak, and the woman who is my national's best friend and had been in the company for 35 years and drove a pink Cadillac just like me, said everything opposite of what I was getting ready to say, the speech right before me. And I was like, oh my God. It's gonna be so disrespectful for me to get up here and say what I've just written. I am in trouble. I'm in danger. What am I gonna do? I threw my speech away. I get up on the stage and I'm like, okay, we're gonna wing it. Something took over. Like, I can't explain it to you. The clouds opened up, the sun shined down. The second they put that microphone in my hand, it was like my calling.
Your fight or flight kicked into full gear.
And I was in the zone. My hotness was present. Like, that was amazing. I gave a speech, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, told things that I never thought anybody would want to know. I got done speaking, the whole place was silent. They all stood up. I looked down. My person is crying. The person on top of me is just like tears rolling down her face. And I'm like, I gotta go. And I ran off the stage, like tried to get out of the room. People are like, no, we have questions. And I'm like, get me out of here. Like, I don't know what just happened. I'm freaked out. Like, this is crazy. I didn't know what to expect. I get in the elevator and I hear a voice say, this is what I want for you. Like, now you can go do this. And so I had to sit down and really like think about it. And I was like, how did that happen? Like, how did I go from not even knowing that this was something that I wanted to do to absolutely like effortlessly nailing this in a crazy way? And then all these people, oh my God, I wish I could speak like that. I wish I could speak like that. I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I just did it. And it was something about that clicked with me. I was like, oh, there are things that we are just naturally really amazing at. Why am I over here trying to be amazing at all of these things? Because somebody told me to? What boxes am I really trying to check in my life right now? Like, all the things everybody else tells me to do. When in reality, like, this was great. Nobody ever told me that I should do this or that this is, wonderful. Why? Because most people are scared of this. This is not something that comes natural. This speaking
to like anybody.
To anyone. No one's gonna say to you, get on stage, you should speak, it'll be great. They're like, no, I don't wanna do, that's not something. So I immediately started to trust myself and think, I do know what's best for me. I am in control. Let me see what I can do here. And the more I spoke, the more opportunities opened for me. The more I realized, since it was effortless, that like there was so much joy in it. It wasn't work. It was touching people's lives. But then it also gave me a whole other perspective. I started going backstage with women who I watched from the audience, who were these like powerhouse, crazy, amazing, like can't tell them nothing. You always see the best of them, right? They're like celebrities. they're backstage ready to throw up because they're so nervous. They're so afraid they're going to say something and nobody's going to like them anymore. And this time is going to be the time that I fail. And oh my God, I can. They're throwing up in a bucket backstage. And I'm like, you think these things? No way, you're my idol. Like, do you know how powerful you are? And they're like, no, no, I don't. And I'm like, oh my God, we're all the same. Like, we are all the same. The difference between the people who actually get on stage and make a difference in the world, or whatever it is that you're doing, that actually do the thing, is that they just do it anyways. They've learned to turn off the pieces that tell them that they shouldn't or couldn't or wouldn't, or, you know, all these hot, messy parts. And they go, no, this is my hotness. I'm going to go do this. And just because I say so. And so you learn to override. So I teach a lot of mindfulness for that reason. Like, meditation helps you to be able to do that. Visualization helps you to be able to do that. But the first part is journaling, sitting down and going, here's my hot mess. Here's my hotness. Like, how do you do this? So you take out a piece of paper, assignment.
Yeah.
Take out a piece of paper. Where am I messy? This will be a very easy list for you. Right now, you can name off, or anybody, right now you can name off 10 things that are wrong with you, right? Like, we all play these all day long. Everyone does, everyone, even Oprah Winfrey, okay? Like, people you think could not possibly think there's anything wrong with them, have a list of things that are wrong with them. Write that down. Then take out a little like pen and say to yourself, like, what are the parts I can fix? What parts of this should I fix? Are there some things in here, like, if I'm super disorganized, should I fix that, or should I hire someone to fix that? Should I go find someone who is really organized naturally, that's their hotness, and do that, or should I spend some energy doing that? Like, go through your list, figure out what you should fix, and maybe you don't have to, or you shouldn't, or it doesn't matter. Then I want you to think of where you are. Like, for me, it's on stage. Where are you the hottest, baddest version of yourself? Like, that girl, you can picture her. What is she doing? Where is she at? Even if it's like you're a house mom and it's like when you're at home and you're organizing everything and you've got the book bags on the pegs by the door and everybody's got their lunch. Like, I know there are women like that in the world. I am not one of them, but they really nail it, like, with the organization of the home and keeping everything going and all of that. Whatever it is for you. Picture that girl, the one that can't nobody tell her nothing, and write down all her traits. Like, what is she good at? What is it? Like, how does that feel? What are you doing? Where are your strengths? What could this also, like, translate to? And then anytime you have a decision to make in your life, anytime something is bothering you that you really just can't seem to get on the other side of, take these lists out and be like, what part of my hot mess list is getting in the way? And then if I was this girl right now, if I was this hotness girl right now, how would I make this decision? Like, if I'm that girl on stage, this doesn't exist, I'm this person, what is she gonna do? She's gonna say it doesn't matter because you can have anything you want to because you're a bad bee. Right. She's right. Okay, so let me make this decision as her. What's she gonna tell me to do? Take the fear out of it. Is she gonna tell me to do this? Then why am I not just doing that? And that's how I learned to figure out the hot mess and the hotness. And I talk about it on stage, and it turned into a diet program, which is just crazy.
Which is now the Worth It nutrition program.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think I have so many questions for you now. Like, so many questions. I was
crazy.
like, should I start writing them down now?
Yeah.
So, but don't you think, right, because you started out in selling furniture, right? So don't you think that was kind of, and then you went into selling makeup, and that, like, don't you think that was like such a natural progression for you, right? Like, because sales is kind of like public speaking.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
I think there were a lot of things along the way that I also did. Like, I used to key cabinets, like data entry. I skipped around a lot and tried a lot of different things. I think I needed that because I didn't know enough about myself when I was younger to know that, like, even though I was good at sales, I didn't understand that that was a good thing. I don't know how to explain that any better, but I was just like, oh, I need to try everything. I kept landing and succeeding
in sales. Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, well, maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. I wanted to be an astronaut, but Turns
Wait,
out.
how old were you when you were like, okay, maybe that's not for me?
Probably middle school. Around about when everybody's dreams die, right?
Yeah.
In middle school when someone calls you stupid and you're like, you're right.
Yeah, when you're like, okay, I guess I shouldn't be a marine biologist.
College costs how much? That's like,
Yeah. And that's a whole other thing. Like, so did you ever go back to school? You still only have a 10th grade education?
I still only have a 10th grade education. I got my GED like at the end of my 10th grade year, because like there was a lot going on home. Like I said, my dad was in jail, I was homeless, like there was a whole thing, and I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna finish school. Like it's just not gonna happen. So I actually just went to the principal and I was like, how do I get out of this? And they're like, well, you can take your GED, and if you pass it, I passed it with such a high percentile, apparently. They called me back in and they were like,
are you sure you want to stop?
why are you doing this? And I was like, I just can't get here. Like, I can't get to school. Like, and it's not something I can consistently show up for. I don't want to do it if I'm not going to do it well. Like, that was my thing. I was like, I feel like I'm wasting my time. And I have so much I need to do.
That's like so insightful for what, a 16-year-old?
I have a choice. Because I'm always like choosy on how far to go into the story, but I put my dad in jail. So when I say like I had to make a lot of big girl decisions really young in my life, like that was really hard. So I turned him in. Mom was like, you gotta go. Like, like, what are you doing? And there was a lot of like, no one believed me, so I just had to believe in myself kind of stuff. And like, I remember one day at 16 years old, I was sitting in my bedroom, and it was right before I had to leave. And my mom said something to me like, I hope you're happy your dad's never gonna meet his grandkids. And I was like, that's the point. I was like, in my head, I was like, that's the point. And she wasn't quite getting it yet. Like, she didn't realize that what I was saying was true. She really did think that I was looking for attention or, all these things. So I had to I remember saying to myself, the people that raised me are crazy. I have to figure out something else. Everything that I know to be right and wrong is probably not right or wrong.
Yeah.
So I have to go figure those things out on my own. So I became a very critical thinker and analyzed a lot analytically, made a lot of decisions at 16, 17 years old that I think most people just don't have to. But it was survival for my situation. So yeah, I had to look at it as like a big whole life, because my life was starting then, like over, So that's what happened. So then I decided not to continue school. I made a lot of really bad decisions for a little while, trying to figure out the difference between right and wrong.
Because you're 16.
Right.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out the difference between right and wrong. I got it wrong a lot, but then, like I said, I was probably 21, 22, 23, somewhere around in there when I was like, wait, I'm in control. Like, I can decide where I go. The only person that really qualifies me is me. Like, I can do this. Like, let's figure out what I think is right. Not what the world thinks is right and wrong, but like, what do I think is right and wrong? And then we'll go from there. And that's kind of where life took off. And no, I did not go back to school. I did recently get the certification for the personal training, which was interesting because it was my first time like back in a classroom setting since I was 16, 17 years old. So I was like, wow, studying, okay. Like, you know what else is interesting? When you have children, so my children are 23, 22, and 14. When they were going through high school, and they would come and ask me like questions, I'd be like, well, you got a little further than me. I don't I don't know. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I can help you up until about 10th grade math, and then after that, it's all new to me too. We're out to learn it together. So getting your kids through school, it was a very proud moment for me when both of my older kids graduated high school. I'm like, look at you. You're already doing better than your mom, Like, go out there, get it. So.
Okay, so great. Now I'm going to ask you this, and I can not include this. I wanted to let you have a breath so that I could ask this. Were you sexually abused?
I was, yeah. So my dad's a pedophile. You can include it. I don't care. It's open information. It's not.
This is like such a sensitive topic, and it's so interesting to me. And I might get weepy because of the news I shared with you before. I swear to God, there's some sort of theme or something that the universe is trying. Oh, goosebumps! Is trying to get me to talk about or do something with, because every single guest, and including one that is potentially wants to tell their story, but I'm afraid that it will hurt her more than it will help her, has all been touched by sexual. They've either been sexually abused or their partner has been sexually abused.
Yeah. So
like, it's incredible to me.
Here's the thing. Yeah, me too. Oh, I'm so excited that we're talking about this because, again, I don't often bring it up. It's not something I get to talk about a lot.
And even more, like, I had no agenda for this conversation. I always just let them go where they're going to go.
Yeah, that's the best kind. So I'm not a big fan of the Me Too movement because I think it made men very nervous to express themselves. I will say that ahead of time. But I think what it did make people realize is 3 out of 4 women, 3 out of 4 have been sexually abused in some way. Like, that's crazy. I don't know what the male, like, I don't know how many men have been sexually abused. Well, I think a lot of people are quiet about that.
Exactly. I think, I mean, the statistics, God, I want to share this again. But I took it out of the other podcast that I shared it in. I dated a guy that was sexually abused, and I ended up being the first person that he told. And I remember I just dove into so much research about male sexual abuse because I was just like, say what now?
They don't talk about it.
Right, because they just don't talk about it. And like, you know, I don't think up until in the last handful of years that women are really starting to become more open about it.
Oh yeah, it's not something you don't just bring it up at coffee either, you know, like, hey, by the way,
my dad's short-circuiting right now because, you know.
It's not. But here, the Me Too movement really started people talking about their experiences and what has happened to them and made it kind of okay to have that conversation. I can't tell you. Almost every woman I know has some sort of story. What's really interesting is, like, my story, so my dad is a pedophile. There's different like levels to that, like the age groups that these guys are excited by and different things. His was like 11 to 13. Like, that's his type or whatever, which is just so weird to talk about. I feel like that was
Jared from Subway too.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's like there's like a whole series on I think HBO about it. I think it's HBO. I don't remember, but I remember my husband and I were like bored one day, like just looking for something random to watch, and it was before Sophia was born, and I was like, we can't watch any more of this.
Oh my god!
Can't watch this anymore.
Right. Yeah. So he started with my friends, and then me, and then I turned him in because I was like, no. Like, I knew it was coming because I watched him with my friends, and I was too scared to say anything when I was younger, you know. And then I got old enough to be like, this is not okay. But the interesting thing is, when it's your dad, you only have one dad. So you don't realize that some of their behavior when you're younger is not normal. Like, you think this is what a dad does until you start experiencing your friends' dads, or your friends come to you and go, you know, it's kind of weird that your dad does that. And you're like, it is? Oh, and you don't think, like, a normal person who didn't grow up with that would think, of course it's not okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't have anything to, like, go against it. He was my Superman. Like, I was obsessed with my father, and he was obsessed with me. So it was like this, you know, like, daddy's little girl, like, growing up thing. Then I had a real big realization, you know, when I finally, like, went to the police and was like, hey, all of this. And they're like, oh my God, you know, like, we're putting your dad in jail. And I was like, oh, okay, like, this isn't okay, you know, like, I have to re-examine everything out here. I did forgive him. We did go to therapy. We did family dinner after he got out of jail many years later. We did like family dinners. I set rules around it, you know, that whole thing. But then he got caught soliciting sex from a minor online. Who was 13 years old. Yeah, I think I had just earned my pink Cadillac actually in Mary Kay, like, when he went to jail. I remember getting the phone call, and I had to write him a letter and be like, hey, I can't have any further relationship with you. Like, if you're going to continue this in your life, like, I can't put my children in your space. I can't be in your space. Like, we're done. I love you. I forgive you. Like, I hold no anything. You just don't ever contact me again. Like, please. And it opened the conversation for me with my children of, like, hey, this actually happens. Like, I think a lot of times we think it doesn't, but he found a 13-year-old online, pretended to be someone else, then finally revealed who he was, and the girl was going to meet him, and her parents intercepted, and the cops met him. Ugh. This happens. Like, this happens. And it's a very serious, like, conversation. So now what I do, and anybody out there who's wondering, the best way to prove this to your children is to go on the sex offender website where they have to register and just look up, because it'll show you within a mile,
where they
2
all
miles,
live.
3 miles, right?
Yeah.
That there are people, and when you click on them, it'll say the age of who they offended and what the offense was. So you don't know who they offended, or it's not that personal, but you can look at your 14, 15-year-old child and say, hey, when you're online, these 3 people that live in our neighborhood were caught looking online for girls who are your age, you know, and you can show their picture and you can say, doesn't this look like a normal person? Well, let me tell you what they did. If this person was online, you know, and it just makes it more real for the kids that mom's not just freaking out and being like crazy, and that it is right in your neighborhood. So it doesn't matter where you live, you can find these things. Now, let me spin this a little bit, because I did start to write a book. I may eventually finish this book. We'll see. But in the hot mess to hotness arena, it was like the things that come from that story that were awful then that have made me really great now. And you will find a lot of people that you have sitting across from you that have had these, you know, experiences. They're really great in some area of their life, right? They're hypervigilant, so they're always paying attention to what's going on around them and how people feel and what's going on. So they're really receptive to a lot of things and maybe noticing a little bit more than other people do. The other part, like the reason I'm so good at sales, I had no boundaries. I didn't even know what a boundary was until I was 35 years old and my therapist told me, okay? Like, this was not part of my growing up. But when I was younger, I remember people saying to me all the time, hey, you will just ask anybody anything. I'm like, yeah? Like, I hear it now, but what I look back on is like, oh, I was never told, like, that it's not okay to push boundaries with other people. So when I was in sales, I'd be like, do you want to buy this? Do you want to do this? Do you want to, you know, like, oh, I have this for you and I have that for you, and wouldn't this be great? And I would like kind of push and push and push, and oh, I see you have this in your family. Well, look, wouldn't this be great? Where other people wouldn't, because they'd be like, oh, you know, this is inappropriate, or this is very intrusive, or this is something, where they would have that like boundary to stop them from asking those questions. I didn't have it. So I would ask and I would get what I asked for. And then so that taught me, now I had to put some parameters around that as I aged. Obviously, I learned that not all the questions were appropriate to ask. But I was able to harness that as a superpower later, as a hotness later, of like, oh, not being afraid to ask for what I want or need is actually getting doors to open that wouldn't otherwise if I was fearful of asking those questions. So let's just put healthy parameters around them. And there are a lot of other like kind of things like that that are built on growing up the way that I did that have made me so good today. I'm a very open person.
Yeah.
So
so did you ever talk about with your dad, like, who sexually abused him?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. One of the first things he said when he finally copped to it, eventually, he was already out of jail at that point. He said that he had like an uncle or some, like another man in his life that sexually abused him when he was younger. And at the time, I remember saying, who cares? Just because you did it to me, I'm not gonna do it to somebody else. Like, this doesn't make it okay.
Right.
But then I also realized it probably happened when he was 11, 12, 13. This is when he stopped growing sexually. This is why that's all he's attracted to now. Like, I can't say it's okay by any shadow of a doubt. You can start to understand, like, peel back the layers of how that develops over time if someone is not taken care of. And they're not taking care of themselves, and they're not, you know, reaching out and asking for help for these things and healing from stuff. It becomes a monster. Yeah,
and it's so great that you have done that work, because as you probably already know, it's a family disease. Like, goes generation to generation to generation, and I really think that it's our generation that's supposed to be the cycle breaker to not to help hopefully stop some of it.
Can we talk about how hard it is to be a cycle breaker?
Yeah,
that
girl.
is.
Yes. Goosebumps.
Insane.
Yes. That is exactly where we're supposed to go.
That's insane because nobody likes it. Like, you can say here, we can talk all day. Yes, girl, like, go break that cycle. But the second you have to look at somebody and say, this is not healthy, and it's their behavior, the people that love them and that person do not agree, do not like it, do not want to be part. There's a lot of like tearing you down because now they have to make you a bad person so that they can still be a good person, and there's just so much that goes along with that. So you have to really be a very different type of strong to be able to break a cycle like that.
Gosh, I literally cannot even imagine being 16, making those decisions, and then having your mom.
I know. God bless her. We still have a good relationship.
How?
I love my mother.
How?
Yeah. Well, because she was also, here's the thing I had to learn. Oh my God, did this take me years and years of therapy? Wait, this is a very expensive sentence I'm getting ready to say right now. She was also being deceived. Just as much as the rest of the world was, my mom believed in her husband. She thought that this man who laid in bed beside her every night and took care of the kids and loved everyone very much and was this, personality in the community, like, she was just as much deceived. And he was telling her just as many lies about me as I was trying to tell truth about him. And so who are you going to believe? Your 13-year-old daughter who's a hot freaking mess, who just got kicked out of school for drinking on the bus, and then...
But why is she drinking on the bus?
But they didn't ask those questions back then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So mom has been married to this man who she loves, who has been this amazing person, and all of a sudden, this attention-starving, Mimi 13-year-old kid who is a complete mess is like, oh, by the way. And what did my dad tell her? My dad told her, and everybody else, that he's going along with it and he's going to go ahead and go to jail because he doesn't want my life to be ruined by my lies, because he is a amazing father. I'm like, right. But that's what you're up against at 13 years. This is why people don't tell because it's so hard to fight those fights. And I'll tell you right now, he did not go to jail for what you would think. He got contributing to the delinquency of a minor. It took 2 years to get through the court process. He got time served, and he came home. So when he came home, I left. And that's ultimately how I became homeless, because I couldn't live in a house with him. And, he had everyone convinced. He just did. And they had known him his whole life. Nobody could imagine that he would do this. They had not known me for 50 years, And so it is a lot to go up against, but at the same time, when you're right, and you can just okay, I have to step, I can't live in the house with this man. He's a predator. I know what I know. God will take care of me. I'm gonna get through this, and everything's eventually going to work out. But right now, it's just not okay. I can't stay here. On the other side of that, eventually, when I got pregnant and came home and was I need a place to live.
Yeah.
I can't, mom and dad were in bed, and dad turned to my mom and said, she's right. Actually, I did everything she said I did. It all happened just the way she said. And unfortunately looked at my mom and was like, you're an enabler. I have to leave you. Yeah, exactly. Huge, crazy, so then she was even more upset because now she finds out, right, all of the information was true, but he's leaving now, even though she's stuck next to him through the whole thing. Oh, my poor mother. I can't even imagine what that roller coaster was like. I was mad at her for a very long time. I have definitely forgiven her and tried more as an adult, a woman who has children, who has been married, to look at how I may have handled that situation not as great as well. You don't want to believe that your husband would ever do anything like that, So, so that's what it is. But let me tell you how this translates to the Worth It Nutrition program, because this is really actually an interesting segue. And it's how the diet program came to be. I lost 100 pounds, and I had always had trouble losing weight. In my early 20s, about the same time that we're talking about, I finally was I'm in control, I'm making a decision, all of those things. I started putting weight on after my second baby. And when I say weight, I was like 250 pounds, but I was going to the personal trainer 2 hours every single day, paying this guy out the nose, to work out hard in the gym every day. I was paying a doctor $2,500 for pills that, were supposed to make me this. And I was paying for another diet program. So I'm diet, pills, working out, I'm doing all these things. I can't lose this weight.
It's just not amazing what your mind does.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
So in that same gym, I had a therapist that I worked out with. She ended up being my therapist for my son when he was going through some things in high school. And so I'm going to her, and I remember I had gone to the doctor, and he looked at me, and I caught him writing on my chart, morbidly obese. And I grabbed his hand and I was like, don't you dare call me fat, so fat that I'm gonna die. I can't even take that from you right now. I'm eating 1,000 calories a day. How are there even skinny people in this world? How is it possible? I can nail anything that I want to. Why can I not do this? And he looked at me stone cold and said, if you were doing all the things you said you were doing, you'd be losing weight. You're a liar. And I was like, oh.
Here we go again.
And I had a complete, come apart.
Yeah.
So I go to the therapist and I'm like, I don't understand what the problem is. Now she saw me at the gym, so she knew I was not a liar, right? She knew. And she goes, you get on stage for Mary Kay. And because at this point I was speaking all over the place. I had this huge empire, in my company. And she's like, you get on stage and you tell women how to make millions of dollars in their business through mindfulness. And if they secretly think that rich people are snobby and nobody likes them, are they gonna make money? And I was like, well, no, duh. We all know that's how it works. You can't hate money and make money. And she's like, right. Have you ever thought, I didn't see it coming, okay? I didn't see it coming.
Just checking.
But she goes, have you ever thought that weight loss might be the same? And I was like, no, that's dumb. Nobody wants to be sexy in a bikini more than I do. And she was like, right, on the outside. But you grew up in an abusive household. Do you think that maybe your body is trying to protect you? And I was like, no, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That is stupid. I just couldn't take in the information. I was like, how would that work? And she's like, well, if somewhere deep down inside you are afraid to become sexy and desirable, don't you think maybe your body's protecting you from that? That would put you in danger. And I'm like, no, that's dumb. And then
she's like, job security.
So I go home and I start Googling it, as we do, and I was like, oh my God, there are three things that women typically have going on inside of them that will cause them to hold on to weight. One, just like I said, they're afraid of the attention they'll get from actually being sexy. And even though on the outside they're like, I want to be sexy, on the inside they're like, that's scary, right? And they're like, people are going to be coming on to you. Do you know what to do about that? What if they think you're promiscuous because you're hot? There's all these things, right? So that's one reason that we can hang on to weight and not even consciously know it. Second reason, somebody along the line of their growing up told them that they're broken in some way and that nobody's going to want them because of it. And rather than dealing with that thing, it's a lot easier to say, I don't have a partner because I'm fat. I don't travel because I'm fat. I haven't gotten the promotion because I'm fat. Not this other thing that they're not really willing to deal with, that they believe about themselves. They're broken in some way. They don't, or think they're broken in some way, don't want to fix it. It's easier to eat and blame it on your weight. And then the third reason, this one resonates with so many people, is that mom and dad, even if in good intention, did not give them some type of affection that they needed, but they could go to grandma and grandma would give them cookies, pies, cakes.
Oh God, that sounds like my Grammy.
And she loves you because she feeds you all of these things.
Would you like some cookies for? I mean, she's no longer with us, unfortunately, but good God, that woman could bake.
Right. Right. And you knew that she loved you when you ate those cookies. Mm-hmm. You want to feel that. And for some people, that's the only time they can feel that connection with somebody that loved them, was their Grammy's cookies. So whenever they're stressed or upset, they eat Grammy's cookies or something like it that'll give them that same feeling of assurance and love. So I immediately sat down and was like, okay, we're going to prove this wrong, right? Because that's what us stubborn people do.
This isn't right. I told you it wasn't right. I told you you're wrong.
I told you you're wrong. I'm going to prove it to you. I made meditation, affirmation, visualization, journaling, mindfulness, program around weight. It's like, why do I feel like I do when I step on the scale? What are the voices in my head telling me, where is it that I want to go with this weight loss? Why is it that I feel like I can't do it? Like, all of these things. I'm going to ask myself these things. I'm going to figure this out over 12 weeks, right? Then I was like, okay, nutrition-wise, weight loss-wise, like I knew nothing other than I'd tried everything. Weight Watchers, keto, all of the things that you could sign up for, buy the new sneakers, do the latest water bottle, swallow the whatever pill, rub whatever cream on your butt. I did it. So that I had.
Have to know about the cream on the butt.
I had all that. But I sat down and I was like, okay, I'm not going to take into account anything that anyone has ever sold me. I'm going to write down all the things I knew worked, kind of the Hotness thing again, right? Like, these things actually worked. Intermittent fasting actually did something for me. Not eating gluten actually did something for me. Not, and let's find out why. So I tore all those things apart and figured out why they did something and what actually happens in your body and what I should be eating, what I shouldn't be eating, all that. And I wrote myself like here's what you're going to eat for the next 3 months. I lost 70 pounds. 70 pounds just doing the mindfulness work and the nutrition. No exercise, just these two things. And I was like, oh, she might be onto something here, right? And then I went on about my life and I got back on stage and I made the joke. I'm famous for this joke. It has followed me to this day. I didn't write it. It came out of my mouth, but I walked up on stage and I was like, oh, you guys might not recognize me. My name is Amber Valentine. You used to know me as Amber Brown, but I went through a 300-pound transformation.
Right.
And everybody's like, what? And I was like, 100 pounds of body weight and 200 pounds of a husband that had to go. Everybody laughed. It was a great way to open my speeches. And then I would go on for an hour and talk about how they could make $1 million in their business, right? All in the same principles that I had just lost weight on. And then the women would come to the side of the stage and line up, and they're like, hey, that was a great speech. How did you lose the weight? I just talked for an hour about how to make $1 million. They want to know about that 100 pounds. I was like, oh, well, it's a couple of things, but really it has to do with the same stuff that I talked about here, like meditation, affirmation, visualization, like figure it out. And I would give them some pointers, tell them what to eat, like those kind of things, send them on their way. Well, they'd call me and be like, I lost 50 pounds. Like, you have to talk to my sister. Like, she really needs you. And then you have to talk to my cousin, and you have to talk. Accidentally started another company because it worked for everyone I gave it to. And I would be having these amazing deep conversations with women, helping them work kind of backwards to find out the situation in their life 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that's actually causing them to hold on to weight today. And it was amazing. And like, the one that I use as an example all the time, and we can talk about this, is there was a woman, she's a very good friend of mine, and I didn't know this about her past, but she was on my program for a while. She was kind of beating her head against the wall, couldn't really get to the root cause. And so I said to her, I was like, go back to the time when you started to notice that things weren't working for weight loss. What was going on in your life right then? Spiritually, business-wise, emotionally, privately. And it was like a light bulb clicked on. She goes, oh my God, I had a miscarriage. And I was like, yeah, that's a major life event. Like, I didn't even know this had happened to you. And it was like all of a sudden, from all the mindfulness work she had done and us, just that one pin was like the card that made the house fall. She goes, oh my God, I didn't want to be sexy and desirable because that would mean that my husband would want to have sex with me. And if my husband wants to have sex with me, then I might get pregnant again. And if I get pregnant again, then I would have a baby, or not. I might have another miscarriage.
Yeah.
And that would cause pain. And it was like, like all of a sudden, she's like, so many of the decisions that I've made over the last 20 years suddenly make sense. Now, she'd had other kids, she'd had other things, but what we don't realize, I think, is that our body stores that pain of things like this. Even in your tissue, if you haven't read, I don't know if you've read The Body Keeps the Score. It's a very good book.
I have not read it, but I wholeheartedly believe that your body just holds everything.
Yeah.
That's why there's tapping and I can't remember the name of that technique.
So many things. EMDR, like PTSD therapies, like those kinds of things. So you're storing this in there. It's not like you're walking around thinking about it. It's not like you're making these decisions consciously, like avoiding this thing. It's just something your body has created underneath here that is the root cause of the way you're making your decisions, how you're protecting yourself, what's going on in there. So even if you're doing all of the right things out here, there's something down here that's going, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. That's not going to work. We're going to sabotage you on Tuesday night with a bottle of wine and a whole thing of pizza. Like, we are not doing that. Right. Like, you are not allowed to be strong enough to overcome this protector. Like, we are protecting you from this. And so that's what I do. I help them find that part.
So my question is, have you ever worked with someone that you haven't been able to get to that point? Like, they know what their root cause is, and they just can't get past it, right? They're in therapy, they're on medication, they've got all these other things happening, and yet they still can't get past the point.
Yes. So one case that I can really, and we had an open conversation about it. She's like, I don't want to face it. And I'm like, okay, but that's like, you're making that decision to not move forward. Like, you can do as many diet programs and as many, weight loss companies or workouts or whatever. And she's like, right, but I've been tiptoeing around this my whole life. I don't want to touch it. And so what I told her, and if this is you, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I said, listen, this is the equivalent of, like, are you safe? Sure. This is, you've put this in line to protect yourself, right? But let's say you have like a pothole in the middle of your driveway and you put a giant cinder block over it just to cover the pothole, and you just drive around it, right? Like, I'm fine. I'm driving around the cinder block. Everything is fine. One day you are going to get in your car and something is going to happen. You're going to hit the cinder block. Like, you're going to hit it. Like, eventually you're going to run into this thing. And when you do, it's going to cause damage. And it's going to keep you from being able to do the thing that you want to do. You can go around it and go around it and go around it, but you can't go through it unless you move it and fix what's underneath. Then you can have full use of your driveway again. But as long as you keep avoiding it, there's going to be something sitting on top that is going to cause trouble, no matter what you do. So can you be safe? Yes. Are you going to have to deal with the problem over and over again in every other area of your life? Yes. Every single day when you pull in and out of your driveway, you're avoiding this thing that you could just move out of the way and fill. And then you don't have to do that anymore. So I think if you ask me the worst part about what I do, that's what I would say, is when you see a woman go, oh, no, I'm not going to fix that. Now, to be completely honest, I don't get that deep with most of my, like, I don't normally know what my clients are working on because they're doing that work on their own. This was a one-on-one, called me and said, hey, I'm having trouble with this. Help me. And when I talked to her about it, she was like, no, I'm not. I'm like, okay, go to a therapist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. Go to a therapist. Work on this. Like, and then, but I still run into that person at the gym and at the things, and she's still struggling with the same problem. She's just not going to work on it. And it's a choice you can make. You don't have to work on it, but you're not going to get the thing on the other side if you don't do that. You're just not.
Oh yeah, I mean, I immediately thought of someone that I know that has been struggling so much, and this person knows what the emotional pieces are and have been working on them for a really long time, but is still really stuck. Mm-hmm. So I was just wondering, what do you do about that? You just unfortunately can't help them, right?
Yes. Well, you can also, because it may be that they need to see a different
lens.
Because sometimes we focus on like the thing. Like for the longest time, I thought I was mad at my dad, right? Who wouldn't?
Right.
Like that's all I focused on. But there was some pain coming from mom not backing me up.
Yeah.
That like I was never looking at until somebody asked me a series of questions, and I went, oh, I am so mad at my mom. Yeah. I need to forgive her. Like she doesn't need to do it. I need to forgive her, or this isn't going to get better. I can keep looking at my dad but it's really, there's something over here too that I need to fix. So what I would say for your person that you're thinking of, one exercise that I tell people to do that's actually part of my program that's really great is I say, I want you to sit down and write down everything you say to yourself. Like everything in its actual voice, not like, oh, I tell myself I'm lazy, or I tell myself that I'm disorganized, I tell myself, I want you to write the sentence when those things come up that your head says to yourself. Like, damn it, Amber, why do you half-ass everything in your life? Like that's the actual sentence that's in my head. So I write that down. Or damn it, Amber, why can't you just get your shit together? Like those are the words that are actually going through my head. So write those words down. Then take that same sheet of paper and I want you to put a name beside it, because you're only born with two fears, and that's the fears of loud noises and the fear of falling. Everything else is adopted. Every other fear, yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Every other fear that you have is adopted from someone else telling you should be afraid of it, or some experience that you have that causes danger, and you develop a fear. So just like, I always use the example, I'm like, are you afraid of ghosts? Well, have you ever seen one? No, but somebody told you, or you saw a scary movie, or like, what if ghosts are like really cool actually, and we're just all like, ah, because they told us to be scared of them, or they don't exist, or whatever. Like, but we're scared of them for no reason. Like, we've never really experienced this, right? So put a name beside the sentence. Somebody said this to you, or it came from somewhere, whether it's I got embarrassed in the 3rd grade, it was my 2nd grade teacher, it was my mom, it was my dad, it was my uncle, it was my sister. Who said this sentence to you? Whose voice is that? Because it's not yours. And a lot of people struggle with this because they're like, no, it is my voice. I'm like, it's not. 100% it's not. Call your sister and ask her who it sounds like. Call your best friend and say, who do you think said this to me? Like, if you can't figure it out, put a name to each thing, and then I want you to recreate that in a different sentence. So this is how I have my people write their affirmations rather than just, yes.
Wow.
So one for me is, Amber, why do you always half-ass everything? So even though I know that's not true, my brain has been saying that sentence to me for 40 years.
Your mom.
My mom. So, and that wasn't vicious. She was trying to get me to clean my room or something when I was like in 2nd grade, but my brain took it and went, oh my God, I never finish anything, right? And so then when something would happen and I didn't finish something, I'm like, why are you half-assing everything in your life, right? So then it became a truth in my head. So now whenever I hear that voice, because it's still there, you can't get rid of them, they're there. But now when I hear it, I go, no, Mom. Like I speak to it, no, Mom, no. This is crazy, but it works.
I love it. Although the new mom in me is terrified of the things I say to my daughter now.
You're gonna screw them up. It's fine. It's part of it. It's part of it. We can't help it. We're gonna pass on things to our kids that traumatize them, but we do it less and less than the people before us. Like, we learn and we move on and all those things. But also take pride in the fact that all of my trauma has made me an amazing person. So even the things that you do to screw your kids up will make them great. Okay. But so I say, no, Mom, I don't half-ass, or I used to. You have to say, I used to, because your whole brain thinks this was true for 40 years. You can't say, I didn't, because your brain will go, yes, you did. And then you won't believe it anyway. So you say, you know what? No, I used to half-ass everything, but now I'm a bad bee that gets shit done. Because that's my voice. I know that's true. So yeah, that used to be the case.
Yeah.
But now, I'm somebody that does amazing things and really gets it done. And then my brain goes, yeah, girl, yeah, you are, right? And it took it from this, like, so you have to rewrite it in your voice so that it is you speaking to you and going, you know what, that's not true anymore. Like, that used to be the case, but now, here's what I do. And that can rearrange your entire life. So,
oh, I love that. I really hope that this person subscribes to my podcast and hears that.
Yeah.
And recognizes, oh, hey, that's interesting. I really think that's amazing for anybody who tunes into this episode, honestly.
Yeah.
Which I'll probably hold for a little while, because I realize that, like, it's summer.
Yeah.
Is everybody really dialed into like self-exploration yet?
Oh, gosh.
That happens like in September, I feel like.
When the kids go back to school?
Yeah, when everybody, because right now everybody's like crazy. Everybody's got kids, there's vacation, they're not like, let me dive into this deep podcast. And oh my God, another episode with an undertone of sexual abuse? What's happening here?
So I'm going to argue with you because I tend to listen to podcasts when I'm in the car.
Oh, okay.
And I'm in the car a lot more, like for long periods of time, like right now, because I'm always taking my 14-year-old on like car trips. Well, she's got her earbuds in, she's over there in La La Land, like doing whatever she's doing. So I'm listening to podcasts and bebopping down the road.
Maybe I'll reevaluate this and add a few more hours into my day. But yeah, I really, I think that's like such great. Thank you for sharing that, because I know that's part of your program, but thank you. I hope that people are like, I'm going to do this, and then I'm calling her.
Right, please call me. I would love to help you.
Yeah.
And it's not as intense as it sounds. Like it's not like I'm calling you up every day, like, hey, dig into your biggest, deepest, darkest fears. Let's go. Like it's a structured 12-week like.
I love that kind of thing though. I'm like, talk deep to me.
That's the only friendships I want. If we can sit down and have coffee and talk about like this kind of stuff, I'm probably not interested. I'm gonna get bored really quick.
I'm terrible at small talk.
Yeah, me too.
I like tune right out. I'm like, oh, okay, that was my husband. When my husband Paul talks to me, I don't pay any attention. Then he's like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "Stop talking small to me."
Yeah, right. Can we pull apart your experience in 3rd grade and really talk about it?
And he's like, no,
that sounds terrible.
Can we just talk about the weather and that I cleaned the pool today?
Have you seen those memes or like little things where I recently saw a reel where a girl was like, yeah, me and my husband have this friend who just recently went through a divorce and it was really bad and we were really worried about him because we didn't hear from him for a long time. And then my husband recently went golfing with him and I was like, oh, thank God. And he gets back from the day of golfing and he's like, okay, how's Caleb doing? And he's like, pretty good. And he's like, well, is he dating anyone? Or he's like, I don't know, it didn't come up. She's like, wait a minute, were you not in the same golf cart for like 4 hours?
Yeah.
Like, and you didn't? He's like, I don't know, but he's got a new driver. Like, like the surface level conversation. Yeah. Girlfriends? Oh, hell no, I'm calling you up. You went through a divorce? Tell me, who are you seeing? What apps are you on? Like, how are you feeling? Can we, we want to know all of those like things, but the guys, no.
I know, I literally will say the same thing to my husband when he's been out golfing with someone that he hasn't seen in a while. I'm like, oh, okay, how are they doing? How's this job? How is this happening? Da 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 da. Is everything okay? And he's yeah, I don't know, man.
I don't know. We didn't cover it.
So then I go, okay, how did you play today?
Such a different thing. Such a different, we are so different. Yeah.
Girl, thank you so much for coming on my podcast today.
And thank you for letting me come on and just run my mouth for the last however
This was so
long.
good. I had no idea where it was going to go, and I'm so glad it went where it did. But before you go, please tell me one thing that you want women to be able to take away from this podcast.
So it's interesting because I think I've already said it. It doesn't matter where you are, where you've been, what is going on in your life. You can literally make the decision today to switch to your hotness and create whatever you want in your life from the magic that's already inside of you. Like, you don't have to go get a new certification. You don't have to go, like, just sit down and tell yourself what's amazing about you and focus on it. Like, forget about the mess. Embrace it. Love it. Whatever. I'm disorganized. It's never going to change. So I put organized people in my life and drive them crazy. And then I take pleasure in it because, like, I know that I can't change that part of myself. So I have to embrace it. There's all these other amazing things over here that I can do that I'd love to focus on and bless the world with and the people around me. So that's what I want you to hear. It doesn't matter. Literally, any woman listening to this podcast should be able to hear my story and think to yourself, oh my God, if this woman can enjoy her life, so can I. Like, if she can be successful, so can I. Like, I've come from the biggest mess possible and just made this beautiful thing out of it. You can do that too, and you can start that today if you haven't already. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. I love you so much, and I'm so glad that you didn't stick to the mean mugging.
I because I'm a straight shooter. I'm going to tell you.
I'm so glad.
I'm like, hey, girl, I thought you were mean.
Look at me. And I fixed my resting bitch face, so we're going to be fine from here on out.
Less people will be like, oh God, she's mean.
Learn to smile when I'm having an ADHD moment. That's what I got
Smile
from
more.
that.
Smile more. Is that what's going on in your head now? Smile more.
People are going to think I'm crazy now because they'll be like, oh my God, get me out of this meeting. I just need to go.
Oh God, girl. So, all right. So tell everybody how they can find you. I will absolutely link it in all the social media and on the website, but just to tell everybody for fun.
So my website is hotmesstohotness.com, which is the theme of my life. So the 2 is a number 2. So it's hotmess2hotness.com. You can reach me through there in any which way, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and it's all Amber Valentine, Hotmess to Hotness.
Awesome. Thank you, friend.
Thank you.
All right, guys. I will see you on the next one. Thank you.